Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you first of all for joining. My name is Alec McCutcheon. I'm a director of Unicom and we're delighted to be working with the CMMI Institute this year to be hosting the SEPG Europe conference. Today's webinar, the theme is Developing Secure Software with Security by Design for CMMI-DEV. And our presenter today is Peter Panholzer of Lima's Security. Peter's actually going to be presenting at both the SEPG North America Conference, which is in Pittsburgh on the 1st and 2nd of October, and also again at the SEPG Europe Conference, which is on the 14th and 15th of November in Amsterdam. What I'll do now, without further ado, is to hand over to Peter.
So, hi everybody. Thanks Alec for the introduction. So what I want to share with you today is a little preview of the actual workshops that will be held on the SEPG conferences. I will introduce you into a very typical situation in many companies all around the world regarding security. Tell you things that work in the situation, but also what goes wrong in the situation. And we will continue in looking at how we can improve the situation and how a process development model or an extension to CMMI called Security by Design can help to turn around the situation and create a secure development process. And we will finish with some best practices and experience that we gathered during the last years. So the model has been developed together with other people, and actually Winfried Russwurm was meant to join us today. Unfortunately he cannot, but he's also part of the workshops. So let's start with the typical situation. So let's imagine we have an engineer called Robert. He's working in a mid-size company, let's say a company that's developing home automation systems. You know, nice systems where you can remotely control your homes, turn the heating on, turn the air conditioner on and off. So really nice systems. And he's an ordinary engineer in this organization. But one day, in a typical team meeting, boring as always, suddenly his boss says, oh, and there's one more point, Robert, we need to do something regarding security and you take the lead there. At the moment, Robert was taken back, of course. It's a new situation, but he was thinking about it. It's actually a very interesting topic, security, and he wanted to create something really great there. Like always, you get a new task, but you keep your old task as well, so resources are limited, your possibilities are limited. And so Robert thinks of, okay, what can I do to improve the security of our systems? That's my new task. And he thinks, okay, so what you need to do actually is to create some very nice security features. So he's starting to engineer some security features like adding a firewall to the system or adding a nice two-factor authentication system where you have your mobile phone to authenticate to the system in order to use it. So he's spending his time and resources to add security features to the system, and the new release is ready, and Robert is very convinced that he did a very good job and really improved the security of the system. But at some point, the system is already released, is placed to customers. A hacker starts to look at the system, and Robert is informed by an outside hacker that there is a security problem in his devices. And the security problem is also shared with the media and gets a media response. And the attacker informs him, okay, this is a security vulnerability called cross-site scripting. Robert doesn't know what is cross-site scripting. And Robert is really taken back that beside his security features, it is possible to hack into the system. But a hacker could actually prove that it is possible, so he can really show that it's possible. And it's not a hacker that actually misuses the systems, but it's more a hacker that is looking for some media attention. That's why he also gets to media and speaking on conferences. So Robert has really a problem because that's really bad reputation for his company. And he was so sure that he created a secure system. So first he was looking, is it really an issue, this cross-site scripting? Are also other companies affected? So we don't want to go into the details of the actual attack here, but really of what's the matter here. So he's looking in his favorite search engine and looking if there's the same problem also with other companies. And he finds many news entries. So for example, here we see a news entry that Facebook was affected by cross-site scripting. And you can see here in the sign-up field that it says hacked by Mauritania attacker. Obviously something that you don't want to read on your website. And he finds many more affected applications. And he finds out that this reported attack is really an issue and it's really a problem. So what Robert learns here is that if he solely relies on adding security features to his system, he doesn't create a secure system in total because the attacker is always looking for the weakest link. So if Robert creates a really strong authentication system, the attacker tries to find vulnerabilities in other parts of the system. Not in the security parts of the system, but really in the core functionality of the system, like in the parts where you can configure your home automation system, and misuses this. So what is going wrong here? And we see this in many organizations still today, even though many organizations are improving rapidly. So the problem here is that many engineers and many organizations rely on security features when it comes to security. Like we had in the example, firewalls or the add cryptography or authentication models. So all of this is needed, but the thing is, it's really not sufficient. Because as we learned before, the attacker will always look for the weakest link, and if there is any part of the application, it might be really a part of the application that doesn't seem to be that important, but if there is a security problem in there, the attacker will go right to it and misuse this part of the application and whatever security vulnerability he can find in there. What we also see is that many organizations are starting singular ad hoc security activities, like doing a penetration test, meaning a security test of its products from time to time, maybe doing a code review, but not doing it in a managed manner, but more ad hoc. So at the end of the fiscal year, we see, okay, we have some budget left, why not spend it for security? Obviously, again, this is not the way how we can, in the end, create secure products. We might, but it's a matter of luck if we don't do it in a managed way, right? So we still have the problem that if we do, for example, just testing at the end, we have huge defect correction efforts. Every time you have a defect when your product is already released and you need to repair it, first, getting rid of the defect is much more expensive than if you would have taken measures right from the beginning. And second, especially when it comes to security, it's all a reputation problem every time a security defect becomes public. So you pose a risk to your customers actually if you deploy products that are not created with security in mind. And this is why we need to change the security efforts. change it in a way that we have a design for security, a managed way to take care of security in the whole development lifecycle, right from the beginning until deployment and beyond it. So we need to treat security like we treat other quality criteria. It really needs to be part of our mindset, and everybody being part of the development process needs to know what he's expected to do regarding security in order to create a secure product. So we want to fully integrate security into the development process. We do this in order to achieve plannable security efforts, so that we don't have these ad hoc activities anymore that might take place or not, depending if we have somebody who is thinking about security in the project or not. We really want to have it planned and organized. And in the end, the overall goal is to provide the customer with a product that fulfills his security expectations. Unfortunately, the security expectations very often are not explicitly stated by customers. Security is pretty much just expected without defining exact security requirements in a lot of cases. Obviously, that's not always the case, but that's what we see a lot. So how do we get to this design for security? In order to help this, and this was really a development effort within Siemens at the beginning, is create a model that documents the best practices, what to do on a process level, on an organization level, but also in the projects to create more secure products. And we tried to write all this knowledge down into a model that has now been published by the CMMI Institute called Security by Design with CMMI for Development. It states version 1.3, but it's actually the first release. The version 1.3 should show that it is adopted to be used with CMMI for Development version 1.3. And in this model we introduce 4 new process areas. There have been a lot of discussions going on actually if it is wise from an architectural perspective to introduce new process areas, or if it wouldn't be better to incorporate the security content into the existing CMMI process areas, which could be done. So there have been a lot of discussions, and discussions are still going on, and there are pros and cons for both ways. But for the first release, we decided that it should be a document on its own that can be used in parallel with CMMI. So we have here 4 process areas. The first one is called Organizational Preparedness for Security Development. As the name states, we are here on an organizational level. Here we describe what we think is necessary to be provided from an organization in order that its projects are capable of developing secure products. In here you find descriptions of how management needs to be aware and actively take part in secure development. But for example also how the organization needs to be prepared if there is a vulnerability found in a product of the organization and is reported to the organization, and then be prepared to handle this report. So this means, for example, having a public contact where outsiders actually can report security issues. Establish such a contact and make it known outside the organization. And also be prepared and have a plan how to react. So you can imagine if somebody calls the organization, there's a security problem, or even worse, if the organization is not called directly, but you read it in the media that in one of your products there's a security problem, the first reaction is panic, right? This is an emergency situation. And for emergency situations, you want to be prepared. So here we describe what is expected from a vulnerability handling process, for example, in order to have this process established before somebody is reporting vulnerability. The second, I try to read the question here. The second process area is security management in projects. And this process area is more dealing with the security aspects in the project, obviously. So what has the project to, especially in project management, to provide in order to develop more secure products? This includes, for example, establishing the right processes and responsibilities for security, manage the security-related activities, and also manage product security risks, for example. When we're talking about managing product security risks, this is related, but it's not quite the same as managing project risks, because here we are mostly talking about more technical risks that appear when the product is put in its operational environment. So actually when it is deployed. And part of this process area explains what is important in order to identify these risks, how to identify these risks, and how to treat these risks or plan for treating these risks. The third process area is security requirements and technical solution. So here we are going more into the actual engineering phases, ensuring that security requirements are collected. Again, something that we don't often see in most development organizations actually, that security requirements are collected in a systematic manner. So this is a very important point here. This process area is also about creating guidelines, assistance, but also reviews for various work products during the development phases. So for example, ensuring a secure architecture or ensuring secure coding. The last process area that we introduce is security verification and validation. This is mainly about security testing, but also about security reviews in other stages. I try to keep up with the questions that you're asking at the moment, but I'm actually having troubles making the window as big so I can read your questions. So I try to answer your questions as good as possible afterwards, if that's okay for you. So the history of this model is that originally it has been developed within Siemens. At that point, I was still working for Siemens, and I'm one of the co-authors of the Plus Secure, how it was called at that time. So is Winfried Russwurm, the other author of the slides and the workshop. So it started as a pure Siemens internal document, as a best practice document, Siemens internal. But after it reached some maturity, it was made public to the CMMI community and shared with the CMMI community. With the help of the SEI, a review was organized by the CMMI community and we received a lot of feedback to the model, both regarding the content, feedback to the content, additions to the content, but also to the architecture. This feedback was incorporated, so this document has then been published as a technical note this year in May by the CMMI Institute and is now publicly available for everybody. How it will proceed in the future, we don't know yet. So now it's public, and it really depends on the feedback of the CMMI community. So if you are saying, well, it's a nice effort that you tried, but I actually don't see any use for security addition to CMMI, well, then it will probably be an internal document, again, maintained internally. If we receive feedback that, well, this is really needed, and the CMMI community wants to participate in it, then there will be ways to further drive this project in a yet unknown setup. So we are using this document for quite a while now, using it for several years, and have conducted many security improvement projects with it. So we gathered some experiences. And 2 or 3 of them I want to share with you now, because I think they are very interesting. And the first is that security in processes means that there are really 2 worlds colliding, the process community and the security community. I myself, I'm coming from the security community. Winfried would be coming from the process community. And actually, at the beginning, when we started to create this document, we sometimes really had difficulties to find out if we are talking about the same thing actually now. So for example, the security and the process community are partly using the same terms in a quite different way. So one example for it would be the term configuration. While for the process community, configuration could mean basically a certain state of the work products in the development process. For the security community, a secure configuration mainly means the configuration of a component. So maybe if on the system the web server is turned on or off, if the guest account is turned on or off, if encryption is turned on. So when we in the security world talking about configuration, when we're talking about security, about configuration in the security world, we're talking about something completely else. And you can imagine that at the beginning this was sometimes difficult to figure out that we are talking about different things at the moment. So we had this issue at the beginning when creating the model, but we also find that we still have these issues when we are conducting analysis of organizations or improvement of organizations. So this is something to take care of. Also what we found out is that, especially for security experts, we are mainly techies. We like to talk in technical terms and deep dive into technical issues. It's often very difficult for security experts to think on a process level, on an organizational level. And this is also something to keep in mind when doing such projects. And also there's something that I call a fata morgana, like objects seem closer than they really are. And one of it is risk management. I brought this example already before. So when, from a CMMI perspective, we are talking about risk management, we are talking mainly, not only, but mainly about managing the risks to the project and to the organization. On a security perspective, when we are talking about risks, we are talking mainly about threats and risks to the system when it's placed into operation. So here again, it's important to clarify right at the beginning what we are talking about in a session. Also, safety and security are terms that that are actually not quite the same, but they are often mixed together. So safety is actually about the impact of a system to humans and the environment, while security is just the other way around. regarding security, we are talking mainly about impacts of adversaries humans can have on our systems. Another observation that we had in our improvement projects is that one of the very first topics, or very first improvement topics started is usually creating a security organization. The reason for it might actually be quite obvious. Most organizations today have a very low maturity regarding security in their organizations and their processes. Even though they might have secure products, when looking at the organization and at the process level, the maturity is very often very low. Obviously, there are organizations that have a very high maturity, but what we see is typically a low maturity. So we start by building up actually a security organization. First, we need somebody who's taking the lead in the organization regarding security and defines a security strategy. And this is pretty much affecting all the other topics, because we need to have a roadmap. How much security do we need actually? What's the importance of security for our components and for our customers? The other thing regarding the security organization is building up security experts. Obviously, not everybody can be a security expert. We cannot expect from every developer, every architecture to be a security expert. But we need to provide them people that they can call and involve when security experts are needed or more security knowledge is needed. So usually security organizations build up at the very beginning. This includes, of course, also training people and assigning responsibilities. The headcount of security people in development organization varies a lot, but usually we find that about 2% is a typical setup. It's fitting most organizations. So this was the short preview for the workshop actually. So what can you expect in the workshop at the SEPG conferences? First of all, you will hear the full story of Robert, continued, and mainly you will be part of the story, because we have seen Robert started an effort, didn't succeed, but now he finds, okay, he needs some security experts or process experts to help him really improve the security capabilities of his organizations. So in the workshop we will together elaborate the main aspects of a security development lifecycle. What is needed to create a secure organization that is capable of developing secure products. And obviously on the conference you will also have a chance to meet both us as the presenters, but also other security peers that we usually meet at the SEPG conferences and share experiences with each other and get some ideas, and also start discussing of how this model can help you and how this model can be further improved. All right, so that's about regarding the slides that I've prepared for today. I now like to read the question and start answering your questions. Alec, I need some help from you here. Maybe if I undock it. Okay, now I have a better overview of the actual questions. So first we have the question, is this in study phase or some companies have started using it? So I would say it's somewhere in between. As I told, I'm using it. I know some companies are using it. I would say it's not in widespread use at the moment. This is something that we'd like to encourage. Also to get more feedback and to enhance the model with experiences from more companies. Another question I read here is, why are the process appropriately defined and not defined as extension to the existing constellations? Well, this is really a longer discussion. And we had here several voices calling for different directions, how the architecture of such an extension could look like. And these discussions are definitely not at an end and need to proceed and are proceeding. So we see many ways how to use this, but I think first of all it is important to get a fixed answer if such an extension is valuable to the CMMI community, and if it is, to which extent, and then it can further be decided how closely it can be attached to the actual CMMI. Another question is the SCAMP PMDD updated for appraisal for this? It's not yet. So actually, at the moment, how it is now, we're really focusing on the improvement part. We haven't put too much effort in thinking about how this could be incorporated into appraisals. We really want to focus on the improvement. This was also our first intention when creating this model, right? We wanted to create something that's helping organizations to get better with security. At the end of this road, it will also be very interesting and important to talk about appraisals, but we're probably not there yet. The next question is this an SEI approved model? Well, I wouldn't say it's an approved model, but the reviews, updating it, working on the architecture and releasing it has been conducted together with the SEI. So the SEI is deeply involved here. And the current status is that it has been published as a technical note by the SEI as a first draft, actually in order to get the discussion started, right? In order to start something, you need some starting point. And this is the current technical note. Then we have the question, do the appraiser need specific certification from SEI to appraise an organization for capability profile for these PAs? I think this question is answered with the ones before. This is nothing that has been thought of yet. So we are not at that level yet. A question, if security is another quality criteria like manufacturability or maintainability or scalability, why does it have to have a specific model? Well, it's a good question. Obviously, you could do the same for other quality attributes, right? For me, this question is simple to answer, from my perspective at least. I'm a security guy, and my mission is to enhance the security capabilities of organizations. And as my observation is that most organizations, or let's say a lot of organizations, have a very low maturity in this field, but need a higher maturity. It's important to have this separate document to make the security part of it more visible. In theory, you could also interpret everything that's in the extension also to the original CMMI model. But we want to give further interpretation assistance and make the security topic more visible. If it's good to have an addition for security alone, or it should be another way, again, we're hearing this architecture discussion that is going on and that you are asked to participate also and give your feedback to. Then we have another question. Why did you decide to create an extension of CMMI-DEV rather than use the extension CERT-RMM, which is the Resiliency Maturity Model, which goes more in depth in the security-related features? We are aware of RMM. Actually, at the beginning, it was sort of a parallel development. At the very beginning, when we started with the model plus secure at that time, we haven't been aware of RMM. It was then a parallel development. But it's also a different focus. Security by design is focusing really on the development of secure products. That's the main focus. On the other side, for CERT-RMM, the main focus is for operating components in a secure way. It overlaps a little bit. RMM also reaches out into the development lifecycle. I'm aware of that. But the main focus of both models is really not the same. And depending on if you are operating IT systems or developing IT systems, the one or the other model might be more suitable for you. Maybe also a combination. So I hope I could answer your questions as good as possible. If there are not any more questions, I have to say thanks for joining us, and I hope we see each other on either the European or the North American SEPG this year and have further possibilities to discuss your feedback. So thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks, Peter. This is Alec again. So that wraps things up for today. So as Peter said, we hope we'll see you either in Amsterdam on the 14th and 15th of November or 1st and 2nd of October in Pittsburgh. Thank you very much indeed. Goodbye.